Hey friends, Mike and Jess here.
And welcome to Regeneration Nation TV. Today we're reacting to a lovely video from Miss Kalyn from Girl Gone London. This is American Explores the beautiful English countryside. Learn with me.
Oh yeah, I'm excited about this video because I grew up in, I don't really know the difference in the countryside and the woods here. Okay, I grew up in the woods. Not like a kid growing up in the woods raised by wolves or anything like that. But this is like, we have like the city, and then outside of that we have like the town, and then outside of that it's the woods.
Yeah.
Here.
When I think of countryside, I think
the
of
boondocks.
Like rolling hills and like grass and heavily grassed areas and flowers everywhere. Like maybe a tree here and there, but more like hills.
Countryside's
and stuff.
such a nicer way of saying it,
Yeah.
but definitely out in the woods where I grew up. There were some stretches of roads and everything like that where it's definitely like the countryside. You're out in the country. So yeah, I'm kind of interested to see this video, see what it's like, see how it compares to how I grew up. This is our first video that we reacted to from Kalyn, and yeah, we have her channel, links for her channel down below in the description, pinned comment, and this video. Go support her directly.
Yes.
And without further ado, let's get into it.
Do it.
Oh, shoot.
The look of someone who just realized she lost her keys in the English countryside. Oh no.
Well, this starts off interesting.
Oh, no.
Okay, where did I leave them? Someone help me. Oh God, okay, I found them. Found them? Oh, jeez.
Oh no.
Welcome to the English countryside.
That's beautiful.
As an American living in England, I've become pretty familiar with the English countryside, though also in some ways not familiar at all because it's vast. About 90% of England is considered to be countryside. Which brings up another interesting point. People all over the world talk about the English countryside, but it seems that some foreigners are still a little confused on where exactly it is. This internet
See, some of these shots look very familiar. This shot right here
looks like it could be here.
That road right there.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar, very at home. But Florida is a very flat place, so there's not a lot of hills to go climb up and then overlook everything like that. So that right there is absolutely gorgeous. I wouldn't be able to pick my jaw up from the floor.
It is so different, yeah, because it's so flat here. Like this right behind her is exactly where I've been before, but yeah.
Yeah, I could go 5 minutes away, find a place like this.
Yeah.
Poster says, British folk, what is the English countryside? A podcast I'm listening to mentioned it, and it's a very evocative concept. But I realized I don't know practically what it is. Is it a place, multiple places, an activity, or a state of mind? Well, random internet philosopher, the easy definition is that the countryside isn't something like Disneyland that you buy a ticket and show up to while a man in a mouse costume greets you. Nor is it an altered state of consciousness. Unless you're talking about the feeling of being on mile 8 on what was supposed to be a 2-mile hike and you forgot to pack snacks. No, the English countryside is all the stuff that isn't in the towns or cities. It's the farming fields, it's the forests, and the moorlands. You don't really go to the countryside, it's just all around you. And in this video, we're gonna learn what makes England's countryside so unique. First, let's rewind a little bit. No, further than 1992, keep going. Stop there, about 8,000 BC, give or take a few years. This was the end of the last ice age, and as the weather warmed, forests expanded. At this point in time, England was covered in forests, small grasslands, and tundra. So how did we end up with the fields that are so recognizable in today's landscape? For that, we can thank the farmers of about 4,500 BC. The introduction of farming meant that a lot of those forests began to be cleared. Prior to that, the lifestyle was hunting and gathering, which worked really well within the natural makeup of the land without too many changes. It doesn't mean that all of the forest disappeared completely. There are still notable ones around, like the New Forest and Epping Forest. They're just not as expansive as they used to be. But now, we need to fast forward to the Middle Ages.
These camera angles are so good.
I like them. They keep you
She's
invested in the video. Like
she's exploring the entire countryside. I've always viewed the English countryside as like Middle Earth. Always, like it's
the Shire.
It's connected to me. And these shots don't make me think any differently.
Yeah.
Honestly.
They're just not as expansive as they used to be. But now we need to fast forward to the Middle Ages. Now, these fields are operated within what's known as a feudal system. This is an open field system where peasant farmers are assigned a narrow strip of land to grow crops. And in exchange for the right to grow crops on this small patch of land, they would in turn pay a percentage to the aristocracy. Other areas would be held in common as grazing land. The Black Plague really sped up the process as it wiped out much of the population. Many of these farms were then bought by individuals who enclosed their properties. In more recent times, just over 100 years ago, we'd conquered the Black Plague, but there was...
We have to pause 1 second. Sorry about that. It's allergy season. I had a sneezing fit coming on. Okay, you didn't want to see that. It got pretty ugly. Let's continue. I'm going to skip back a few times to,
Get us back in there.
get back into it.
out much of the population. Many of these farms were then bought by individuals who enclosed their properties. In more recent times, just over 100 years ago, we'd conquered the Black Plague, but there was another threat to the English countryside looming, and that was houses. Well, houses and the people who wanted to live in them. Residential growth in the 1900s made many people worried that the English countryside would disappear. And, as one person put it, will only be visible through a continuous hedge of houses and bungalows. Development was needed, yes, but some town planners saw the writing on the proverbial hedgerow and decided to form a committee to preserve the countryside. This brings about CPRE, Council for the Preservation of Rural England. And since 1926, they've been fighting to preserve the countryside and everyone and everything that depends on it. Wow. Over the years, multiple acts and regulations have been put in place to protect this land. This includes the National Parks and Access to the Countryside Act of 1949, which laid the groundwork for the creation of national parks as well as areas of outstanding natural beauty. It also addressed public right-of-way and access to land, which we'll get to in a second. The English countryside...
It's so crazy that we had to start worrying about this stuff. Like, these things didn't start getting implemented until the last 100 years.
Yeah.
Because things have just grown so rapidly. It's like we have the ability now to just destroy an entire landscape within a matter of days.
Yeah.
And you have to have protections, serious protections, to stop us from doing that.
Yeah, we'll destroy it in a heartbeat. Like, that's awesome that people had the wherewithal to create these committees and be like, whoa, 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 hold on a second. We need to protect.
Like, what it would take us to clear out an entire forest, it would take 100 years before we could do it in a week now. And it's scary what we can kind of do to this planet. But it is good to see that these protections have been thought about. Even in 1926, I would have thought even in the 50s, maybe we would have started to wise up about this stuff. We've done some scary things to this planet.
Yeah.
It is really the gem in England's crown. It's the morning fog on a countryside lane. It's the walk home from the village pub. It's fields bursting with color that stretch out further than your eye can even see. It's ancient trees and woodlands, hedges filled with tiny fruits and the sounds of birds. It's gentle streams and wild, rugged hills and so much in between. And one of the things that stands out the most, it's green. Very green. I don't mean your average run-of-the-mill green. I mean green. A green that can only come from a place with abundant rainfall. You see, England is met with winds from the west, and those winds have traveled across a large amount of the Atlantic Ocean, picking up moisture along the way. When it reaches land, the air has to rise because the land sticks up out of the sea. And when the air rises, it cools down, meaning no more room for the moisture, meaning rain. And then, green. When you compare actual rainfall amounts, it doesn't necessarily rain that much more in England than it does in other countries, but the rain here tends to be drizzly and longer lasting as opposed to intense one-off thunderstorms. This can really easily mess up your barbecue plans, but it means the English countryside is one of the most beautiful places in the world because of it, which is hard to keep in mind when your burger bun is drenched, but easier to appreciate when you get out into the fresh air and appreciate the greenery around you.
You know,
another fascinating...
It's so true.
That's crazy,
You
though.
can't have the rainbow without the rain.
No,
you know?
you can't. You can't appreciate what you have. But that's so insane because I know that every time I think of the UK, I think of it gets rainy there. It's like really like overcast and gray. That's what I think of. And then she's like filming and it's like blue with clouds and stuff like that. But then when she did that whole explanation of why it rains the way it does, and then it just brings so much green.
The benefits that you get from it that you don't really appreciate day to day, especially like she said on a barbecue and your bun's getting wet. Yeah, not great. It's like Florida, we get some pretty intense storms.
Yeah, we do.
And it's not fun. But then you have the beach, and you can go, and it's just a great time. You know, the beach isn't for everybody. I've come to find out. I've talked to people, and they're just like, I hate the beach.
Yeah.
I'm like, really?
I can see
guess
that.
it's
The
not for
sand
everybody.
puts me off. I can't have sand all over me, but yeah.
Yeah, that's why I park near the shower, so I can rinse off before I get back in the car. But as long as we have the shower nearby, I'm good. I love the beach. But yeah, I don't know. It's pros and cons, man. Pros and cons.
To appreciate when you get out into the fresh air and appreciate the greenery around you. Another fascinating feature about the English countryside is the public footpath. And if you're English, you might be wondering what's so fascinating about that. Well, this is a feature that many people in other countries don't get to experience, the public access or right-of-way through private land. Paths like these connect the countryside together, so you never have to worry about trespassing while you're walking, rambling, or running through various fields and countryside destinations. Many public footpaths used today have been in use for hundreds, if not thousands of years. At one point in time, travel by foot was the only option, and people still had to move from place to place. Some of these pathways date back to 5000 BC, as traders used them to move from tribe to tribe. You've also got Roman roads and tracks, as well as those started by the Anglo-Saxons. Now, originally...
That is so crazy, and that's one thing that, like, it just makes me a little bit envious and curious of how my life would be different if I just had those. Well, I grew up... We just moved recently. In my last neighborhood, we had a bird sanctuary down the road. I knew that it was there because I grew up. Even if you told me that we're not allowed in the woods, I would go in the woods. I'm going to explore the woods.
Yeah.
And this bird sanctuary is like completely closed off now. And it's just, I've been back there, and there's footpaths, and it's beautiful. And it reminds me a lot of that. And you're not allowed back there for some reason. It's what's a sanctuary? It's a bird sanctuary. People can't be trusted not to mess up a good thing. But man, it's just, it makes, I would be on these paths all the time.
Yeah.
I'd be more athletic. I'd be more in touch with nature. It's just,
it's beneficial for sure. And you're opening it up because there's a lot of properties that are private. They're privately owned, but I think that's an amazing thing that you can have a public footpath to still go through there. It connects you a little bit more to everything around you.
Yeah, it's
not
just
so closed off.
It's not worth getting rid of things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
Footpaths like these were not designated by law. Instead, they were unofficially considered to be public based on evidence of public use over the years. But with more and more people privately owning land, something needed to be done to make sure that these public footpaths stayed public. This was part of the National Parks and Access to the Countryside Act of 1949. It created what was known as the definitive map, which is a legal record of the public rights-of-way. The map is updated by local councils, and it can actually be used as evidence in court. It's not called the definitive map for nothing. Over the years, there have also been campaigns to help save public paths that haven't been added to the definitive map. One of these was the Don't Lose Your Way campaign in 2020 that helped save over 40,000 miles of public pathways. Another iconic slice of English countryside life is what is known as a hedgerow. These are not hedgerows, these are sheep, but in total, Britain has over 430,000 miles of hedgerows, many of them in England. And often, these hedgerows go back as far as 800 years. They were first planted around fields to keep in grazing livestock, like these, and to be boundary lines between farms. They come in all shapes and sizes, often being a mix of shrub and tree species, like hawthorn, blackthorn, hazel, and ash. Medieval hedges are usually curved at the end so that the oxen could turn a plow, but the hedgerow planted around the 18th and 19th century tend to be straight. To lay a hedgerow is a skill, and done carefully by partially cutting the stems and bending the trunks over sideways. There are actually annual hedge laying competitions in the UK, and the National Hedge Laying Society recognizes more than 30 styles of traditional hedge. One of the best parts of hedgerows is that they're great for wildlife, attracting woodland species, insects, lizards, mosses, fungi, birds, mice, and more. Bats and moths also use hedgerows as spatial cues to move across the landscape. And, did you know, the hedgerows suck carbon out of the atmosphere to help reduce agricultural emissions.
That's crazy,
awesome.
man. Oh my goodness. This is a 9-minute video and we still have 2 minutes left. I don't know how much else she can pack in
Yeah.
and teach me.
That is so incredible. Just the look of that.
I want a hedgerow.
Me too. I think those are genius. They're beautiful too.
Forget a privacy fence, dude. I want to build my own hedgerow and that I can work and curate over years and years and years and leave it behind.
Yeah, I love that.
You know what I mean? That would be so cool.
Drive or walk past a hedgerow without a second thought, but they're doing a lot of good for the countryside. Unfortunately,
yeah, I mean those
hedgerows
shots of the countryside with the hedgerows are so iconic.
Yeah.
That's like literally you see that and you instantly know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Without a second thought, but they're doing a lot of good for the countryside. Unfortunately, hedgerows have been removed at a faster rate than they've been planted since World War II. This is due to a couple of things like changes in farming practices and damage and neglect, but it's not good for the wildlife that depend on them. If you're interested in learning more about how to protect the hedgerows, you can do your part by going to Natural England's guidance on managing hedgerows, and the National Hedge Laying Society offers courses across the UK on the skill of hedge laying. And that brings me to my final point.
I need to take
in some ways, the English countryside is beautiful because it was designed to be this way. Unlike some natural areas that are completely untouched, the English countryside is touched. First by the ancient footpaths of England's earliest settlers, then by precisely designed hedgerows to divide up the land. But that's part of the charm. It's Mother Nature meets human history. It's wild animals finding homes in manicured hedgerows. It's not untamed beauty, but beauty created and cultivated by the people who have lived here for thousands of years. And it's waiting for you to explore. Just make sure to leave no trace, treat it with care, and don't forget to pack the snacks. Or maybe that's just the American in me talking. Hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next time.
Oh, that was good. That was a really good outro. Well
Not
done.
just American, there's tea time, you know, tea time there. People think about their tea cakes and whatnot.
That was
awesome.
a bit of emotion she dragged out of me there at the end. I
English
can't wait to go next year. I just can't wait to experience that. It is definitely different than what I grew up with the
what you
woods.
would say an outdoorsy type person. Like you're not gonna find me like, yes, let's go camping, unless it's like a glamping thing and I know that I can be protected by 4 walls. But I love walking through nature when it's beautiful like that. I love seeing that. I love the feeling of fresh air, definitely. But if I'm going through like a thick, marshy area where it's very muddy, I'm going to be uncomfortable. But if there's sights to look at and the greenery and just like looking at all that stuff, I think that I would definitely enjoy that.
I'll pack the snacks and a battery charger for your cell phone and a little, fan and
some weather gear,
some water boots, and some stuff. I'll pack some stuff for you. Okay.
I could get some cute rain boots.
I mean, she's not kidding.
Ones.
I literally, so I lived out in the woods whenever we were first dating, and there was this little pond, a spring fed pond, right in the back through a little trail in the woods. Beautiful little pond. I used to go snorkeling in there all the time, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna take you at sunset out on this pond on the canoe. And I'll take you into the middle of it, and we're just gonna like talk and chat. And oh my gosh, there were bugs everywhere that night, and then there were bats, flying all around, getting all the bugs.
It wasn't sunset; it was pitch black back there.
Kind of was.
So
I
dark.
waited a little too late, and it was very dark. It was very
terrifying.
Scary. There were bats everywhere.
I feel like he took me to the set of freaking Friday the 13th.
It was Crystal Lake.
Crystal Lake, Camp Crystal Lake.
It had become Camp Crystal Lake, and I regretted it.
So I think I held on to him and had my head down for the majority of that time, because when you're on such a small little vessel,
and I was just laughing my ass off the whole time. I was like, "Oh man, I don't know if we're gonna make it." We're very different.
That was he was testing me, and I definitely failed that test. I definitely did.
I was like, I could jump up, I could stand up right now and try to catch one of these bats. I don't care.
Yeah.
At that moment in my life, young 18-year-old me,
a country boy and a city girl got together. That's the story.
Yeah, I'm very much a country boy at heart still. I would prefer not to live way out in the country at this point in my life. Maybe as I get older, I might want to. Just convenience with the family and everything.
Yeah.
It's nice living closer to things. But the woods versus the countryside, the woods where I grew up, a lot of that is very untouched still. Besides the dirt roads and the roads themselves. But man, I would get lost in the woods and just walk forever and ever and ever. And there's just nothing. There's nothing. that nobody's ever messed with some of the parts still here in the U.S., which is crazy. That there's still just huge chunks of land
That's untouched.
that's kind of untouched still.
Yeah. But I think it's incredible that although it is touched land, it's touched with a purpose in the English countryside. Like they made it a point to take care of what they have.
It's like they were thinking about the future, because those places where I was walking, there's people been there. It's just nobody did these purposeful things to make it hundreds of years from now. You're gonna know that we were here. Yeah, and it's very cool. It's very cool.
They definitely did a good job at preserving the history. I think that would be really awesome to walk on those footpaths and know that people walked here like thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
Like,
it is really cool just to know that it's like etched there, that these, because here it's just, you don't know. Walking through the woods when I was a kid, it's like I always wondered that, like, was anyone here?
Yeah.
You know, I'd find like something old, I'd unbury something, I'd like, am I the first one to find this? I couldn't have been.
Yeah.
Couldn't have. Literally, I just felt like I couldn't have been. But there, it's like, you know for sure that you're not. So yeah, I really enjoy that video. I really enjoy her presentation style. Definitely go support her. Go check her channel out if you haven't already. And yeah, thanks for watching with us. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye, friend.
Peace.
I'm not scared to